If you are just jumping on with us tonight, I would love it if you would take a moment and just introduce yourself. Just let us know in the chat box where you're from, perhaps. That would be just nice to know. It's fun to do these webinars because we often get students from literally all across North America and often Europe and Australia as well. So it's fun if we can see that. So we've got Rita from Toronto. Welcome, Rita. Good to have you with me. Excellent. Thanks for being here. Yeah, I hope Toronto's having better weather than what Calgary's headed for this next weekend. And if anyone else wants to weigh in, that would be great. Like I said, it's just really nice to get to know where people are from. We are just getting ready to get started, and we will be rolling pretty quickly here. And Rita says it's really nice in Toronto. That's great. So glad it is. Enjoy it for me. We've had beautiful weather this week, but we are expecting cold and snow this weekend, which does not sound like a ton of fun. Although I've lived here most of my life, I should be used to this by now, right? Okay. Well, what do you say? Should we get rolling? Yeah? Let's get rolling. So I'm going to invite you to actually turn off all your distractions. When I'm teaching these things, I actually genuinely and honestly put my cell phone on airplane mode because I want to be able to give you my undivided attention. And in order for you to get the most out of the time we're spending together, it'd be great if I could have your undivided attention as well, if that's at all possible. So if you've got that done and if you're ready to roll, let me know in the chat box. Let me know that you are ready. Yay, we've got a hand up. That means ready. Good job. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay, and I don't know how to put the hand down. There we go. Okay, good. All righty. So today we are talking about iridology and your health coaching business. And so you already know, as we're talking about this, we're going to talk about ways to build your business. And we're going to specifically cover some information about iridology, but we're also going to cover 4 simple strategies that will help you to get your programs, your client programs created in under an hour. Now, again, I like to tweak my programs on the fly. So I would love it if you would take just a moment and in the chat box, tell me what your background is. Are you a nutritionist, a herbalist, a chiropractor, a naturopath, medical doctor? Are you brand new to all this and you're curious about just what iridology is and things like that? I'd just love to know what your background is, because if we've got people here, if everybody here is experienced in some way with health and holistic health, then I can up level some of what we do. But if I know that we've got beginners in the group, then I will keep the more basic stuff and work with that as well. So let me know what your background is so that I can make sure that this will fit for you really, really well. Now, you already know that we're going to talk about iridology, and I hope I'm saying it right. Rad, is Rad or Rad? Samir is a medical doctor. Yes, he's got an interesting backstory too, which we won't get into right now. But he and I have chatted before, so it's good to have you with us. Thanks for being here. You already know that we are going to be talking about iridology and how to use it in this web class, right? But before we do that, though, I want to share with you some business changing strategies that will help you get your client programs created in under an hour without working overtime. So many holistic health coaches actually create their client programs outside of paid hours, and that's not smart when we're talking about ways to build the income. In order for me to give you these strategies, again, we need to talk about the 4 key problems that holistic practitioners experience in running a business. And this is so important because we all face these challenges at some point in time, and we need to address what they are, and we need to understand how to work with them. And I'm just trying to get set up so that I feel like I'm in the right place here, because my tech doesn't feel right tonight. Have you ever had that happen where your tech doesn't feel quite right? Okay, and so maybe you're here really because you just want to learn iridology, and that's great if you are. But I know that we get a lot of people into this webinar who they know a bit about iridology, but they're really not clear on problems they're having in their business. And if they could get rid of those, then iridology would be more effective for them to use. So that's where we want to be talking about these things here. Now, our webinars, our group on these webinars is always very small because this is a really niche topic or niche topic, depending on how you want to pronounce that. So I'm going to need your participation throughout this webinar, throughout our time together. And oh, thank you, Rita. I do reflexology and acupuncture, fairly new to iridology. Well, welcome. I'm glad you're here. That's awesome. And so as we go through this, what you're going to find out is the more you interact with me, the more I'm going to give back to you. And the more you play with me in my sandbox, I'll embellish this and I will give you way more information than what's in my script. All right. So it's up to you how much you want to get out of this. You got to invest the same amount. So let me know in the comments if you need any of these things. Do you feel like you need to have your confidence boosted as a practitioner? Do you feel like you need to get some tips or have some tips on how to keep your client sessions on time so that you're not going overtime with them? Do you feel like you would like to learn how you can free up time by getting your programs for your clients developed right in your client sessions instead of working overtime? Are any of those things that are things that you would like to know more about? I'm hoping you're going to say yes. Just saying. Because if you're ready, we're going to move forward with this. And we've got to identify the problems, right, in order to actually find the solutions for them. So, problem number one, maybe you don't feel as confident as you want to when you're doing client sessions. Do you have all the confidence you need? Thank you, Linda. Do you have all the confidence you need to feel when you're with a client? Do you have the confidence to make recommendations right then and there without, going off and doing all kinds of research? Do you sometimes experience imposter syndrome? Yeah, that's the ghost in the closet, or the skeleton in the closet, isn't it? The imposter syndrome. And you know what that is, right? That's that thought that says, that goes in your brain that says, who do you think you are that you know enough to help this person? What makes you think that you can actually do this? You ever had that feeling? Yuck. Yeah. That thought alone, that imposter syndrome thought, it can sabotage your confidence in a heartbeat. And that's a really important thing for us to never, ever have. We're going to circle back to this in a few minutes, and I'm going to give you some steps that you can start implementing today, like right now, in your very next client, to start turning this around. But first, we've got 3 more problems we want to look at, and we want to identify. Problem number 2, you're tired of spending hours unpaid and overtime creating protocols. How many of you actually do your client program or your client protocol creation when your client's not sitting there with you? I might be preaching to the choir already. You might already know this stuff. But do you actually see your client, gather some information, then go off and do more research and put together a program for them to bring back to the next appointment? Is that how you do it? Okay, Linda, thank you. Thank you. Would you like to stop doing that? Would you like to actually be able to get your programs created in your client sessions? I'd love to know if you would. When I'm way back, yep, okay, right on. Well, you're in the right place. That's good. Because we all start out there, right? And most of us continue on there. I used to donate 3 to 4 hours for every 1 paid hour. What does that do? I couldn't charge enough for the 1 hour face-to-face to actually pay me for that 3 or 4 hours. That would have meant, $300 or $400 for that face-to-face session. And clients, this is years ago, clients didn't see the value in that, right? So it was never going to fly. So I kept donating time. Do you know any other professional that gives time away for free? Does your dentist do it? Does your massage therapist just give you extra time? I've never had a massage therapist do that. What about your physiotherapist? I know for sure my accountant and my lawyer don't. right? In fact, I know the lawyer tracks every piece of paper, every envelope, every stamp, and every paperclip, and every minute on the phone, right? So why do they charge for everything and we don't? Why are we, as holistic health practitioners, expected to give our time away for free? I've actually had people say to me, if what you do is so good and if what you are is heart-centered, why do you charge? Oh, let me see. I charge because I have a mortgage to pay. I need to buy groceries. I have car insurance to pay. Oh, yeah, occasionally I'd like to go out on a date with my husband. Oh, and I should be wearing clothes when I see you. What else? Right? And so we need to be charging what we are worth. We're going to circle back to this in a few minutes. I'm going to share how giving your time away for free to create programs is actually destroying your business. And it's way more than the fact that it just reduces your income. Seriously, it's really damaging. Problem number 3, you're frustrated with having to constantly find new clients. What kinds of things have you tried for finding new clients? I'd like to see that in the chat box. I'm going to let you type that in while I tell you what I've done. Well, I've done trade shows. They didn't work. Why didn't they work? I'm an introvert. I love teaching online. I love teaching face to face. Drop me in the middle of a massive noisy cloud and I just retract into my little armadillo shell, right? So if you're like me, and many holistic practitioners are, we tend to be introverts. That's what makes us so good at listening to people and hearing those nuances that the people are actually not saying, but they're meaning. And so it makes it really hard for us to do trade shows. What about finding places to give free lectures? Have you tried that one too? Have you? I'd love to know, because you know what? I've done free lectures. I'm happy to do free lectures for not-for-profits and places like that. But I know now that when I do it, I'm just donating time, because out of all of the free lectures I've done over the last 40 years, I've got one client, counter one, just one. Okay. So not a really good money-making venture there. What about flyers? Well, the proven statistics are that flyers have to be delivered to the same address every 2 weeks with the exact same message up to 7 times before you realize a 1% return, right? So you choose 100 homes or 100 addresses, you deliver the same flyer to those 100 places every other week for 7 flyers worth, and one might phone you back. A lot of money, a lot of time, almost no return, and ads in local papers are really no different. So the real question here isn't just what have you tried to bring in new clients, but it's why do you constantly have to find new clients anyway? Are most of your clients only coming in for 1 or 2 appointments and then they disappear? What's up with that, right? What's up with that? And what can you do about it? That's what I want to share some tips about that with you tonight. Would you rather have, now I don't know how long any of you have been in practice. I'd love to know that here. How long have you been in practice as whatever holistic kind of work you're doing? And you can give it a range of 1 to 5 years or 5 to 10 years, but I would love to know, because I've been in practice for 40 years now. This is the end of my 4th decade, which is pretty awesome. And I've got a lot of clients that have been with me for 25 to 38 years. It's pretty amazing, right? Now, that doesn't mean I'm seeing them every month. I'll see them, once a month for 4 or 5 months and get them to a new level with their health. And then they fade off for a few years and then they get older and their body changes. And then they come back for 4 or 5 more sessions. And then I can send them off again. So they're fading in and out all the time. But it's really, it's a matter of doing the right things that makes it so that when they have another health problem or question or concern, they think of me first. Linda says, I'm starting out, just received my certification as a holistic nutritionist. Congrats, Linda. Way to go. Was that with CSNN or Iowans, or who was that with? I'd love to know what school you went to. So we want these long-term repeat clients. I've got 3rd generation clients now, clients that I started with that have been with me for 35 years. I helped them have their babies. And now those babies are having babies, and I get to work with the little ones now. So it's a ton of fun. Congrats on CSNN, good school. We're going to circle back to this idea of how can you generate long-term repeat clients out of the clients that you've got already, right? That's an important question. Or as a new client comes in, how do you make them want to be long-term repeat? Number 4, and Linda, you may not have had this feeling yet, but the rest of us probably have at least once. You have a nagging feeling of, I should just get a real job, and we don't want to. And so if you're here because of this problem, that again is one of those problems that lurks in the back of our brain, and it's all about not having enough confidence. We need to get rid of that, because if we're saying we should just get a real job, it means our business isn't doing what we thought it would do, and we're feeling like a failure. And so we're thinking we should do something different instead of changing how we're doing the business so that it's being more productive, so that we can feel successful, right? So this is the pathway we need to be looking at going, and we're going to come around and find solutions to this as well. So again, let me know which of these problems are really dogging you. Are you struggling with the idea of not having enough confidence? And I want to see this in the chat box. Okay, we're a friendly group. We understand these problems, but I want to know where your struggles are. Is it the problem that you don't feel confident with clients when you're face to face with them? Is it that you know you're giving away too much time? And giving away is giving away any time pretty much, unless you are choosing to do this as a gift. When I say that, for example, I never see clients on Sunday. That's my Sabbath. And I'm very firm about that. I do a lot of work with new moms and breastfeeding moms. And so I occasionally get an emergency call on a Sunday, a mom with a new baby that's less than a week old, baby's not breastfeeding. What do they do? I will make every exception and I will go to that mom's home. But I will always tell them, I'm not accepting pay. I want you to make a charitable donation to the food bank, right? Whatever you think my time was worth to you today, give that much to the food bank. So I give that time away. So, gosh, that just touches me. Right. Linda says confidence. Oh, we're going to work on that. Is your problem number 3 that your clients come in for 1 or 2 appointments and then they disappear? Or is it number 4 that you feel like you should just get a real job? Or is it more than just those? I do want to know, and I appreciate that Linda's being vulnerable and open here. Thanks so much. And Sayed and Rita, I'd love to have you sharing on here. Riyadh says it's really number 3. Excellent. And that was, they only come in for 1 or 2 appointments and then they disappear. Really hard to create an income on one-off appointments, isn't it? Really, really hard. So I'm going to offer you a little bribe here. Yeah, I'm just being honest. It is a bribe. If you'll stay to the end, I'm going to give you access to the link for a simple little document that will start to change the way you work with clients. And this is so important. When you learn how to use this little document that I'm going to give you, this little tool, you will begin to see how simple it is to begin changing the way you work with clients. So if you're going to stay till the end, I want to see an I'm staying in the chat box. All right, that's the commitment that I know you're going to be here. I'm staying goes in the chat box if you want this gift and you're staying till the end to get it. And Linda says she's staying. Thank you, Linda. We'll have a party. Sounds good. Anyone else staying with us, Rayad and Rita? We'd love to have you stay with us. And like I said, intimate group, because there's not very many people on this call with me. And so I know who's playing in my sandbox and who's not. The real problem is this. The real problem with the way you run your business now, and Rita's staying too, thank you, Rita. Real problem is the way you were taught to create programs in nutrition school or herb school or whatever school you went to do what you're doing now doesn't work. Just let that sink in for a moment. It doesn't work. It eats up your time. It sucks up your energy. It kills your dreams. And I know darn well it just about killed mine way back when. The dream I had back then, and tell me if this is anything similar to yours. Now, it might not have every point, but remember, I started this 40 years ago. So here's what my dream looked like. I wanted to have a happily full appointment book. I wanted to have time to spend with loved ones without feeling guilty about needing to spend more time at work, AKA creating programs. I wanted to help my clients feel like they were being successful for working with me, that they were getting the results they wanted. I wanted my clients to feel like if they didn't come back again and again and again, that they'd be missing out. And I wanted to feel successful because the business was becoming what I always envisioned it to be. Now, are any of those things that you would like to have? Is that any of those things in your dream? Do you want that full appointment book? Whatever that means to you. If you've got children, or if you've got pets, or you've got a partner, or you've got parents, do you want to be able to have time with them? Do you want your clients to feel so successful that they want to keep coming back? And do you want your clients to actually come back? Yeah, any of those? And Linda says, yes, absolutely. I'm betting that's a 1 through 4 for you, Linda. Thank you for that. Well, let me introduce myself for just a moment here. This is me and my husband. This was last Christmas. My kids organized the Christmas party for the family, and it was a ton of fun. Oh my goodness, it was a ton of fun. 7 of these lovely people are our children. 5 of them are, oh goodness, I'm feeling weepy tonight with this, very touched. 5 of these are my children from another mother. Some people might call them in-laws. And the 8 youngest ones are our grandchildren. I grew my business as a health coach while we were having our children. And there were a lot of years when I had a nursing baby in the office with me as I saw clients. Can't tell you how many clients watched me change a diaper because it needed it right then. Or if I was teaching a face-to-face class, can you remember those face-to-face classes? I would take a nursing baby with me because I wasn't leaving my nursing baby at home to scream and be hungry. So why I'm sharing this with you is because if you're busy now raising a family, if you've got a full-time job and you're just venturing out, starting your holistic health practice, maybe you're caring for elderly parents like my husband and I are now. I know how busy it is, and I get it. But what's really important here is that as we go through these things today, you're learning from someone who has been there, done that, figured it out, survived, and wants to share it with you now. As I was doing this, I learned a lot of things. I studied herbology and nutrition, and flower essences and aromatherapy and emotional freedom technique, VitaFlex, biokinesiology, 3 different styles of iridology. And in all of that learning, I never once just accepted everything I was taught. I would take it, I would mull it over, I would play with it, I would let my clients know I was experimenting on them and try it out. And if something didn't work, I chucked it. And if something worked well, I kept it. And so it's really important that with what we're doing tonight, that you remember that it's important to not believe everything you hear, but do consider that this has come from 40 years of experience. Right about now, it's really important for us to remember as well that many of us work under government restrictions of various kinds. You know, whether your government says you can say certain things and you can't say other things, you can do certain things, but you can't do other things within the scope of your business. Maybe you're in an area that is under full lockdown, so you can't even see people face to face right now. And so as we talk about things today, we are going to be talking mostly about face-to-face settings, but in various other places, I teach more about how to do iridology assessments when you can't be face-to-face. Everything I'm going to teach you tonight will keep you within parameters of working within legal guidelines, because that's so important to do. And it can be very, very challenging, right? And I've got a lot of grads from the iridology program who attest to the fact that dynamic iridology, which is the name of the program, has been a real game changer for them and their businesses. And so if this program's worked for them, it can probably work for you too, right? But 35 years ago, I'd been in practice for about 5 years and I was struggling because I was working a lot of overtime. I was writing all kinds of reports and putting together all kinds of packages for my clients after they left the office. I was tired. I was hungry, probably hungry too, but I was really mostly tired, passionless. I was starting to resent my business. I was starting to resent my clients. I felt really overwhelmed. We had 2 kids and I was pregnant with number 3, right? And I really believed, and I still do, that every client program needs to be tailored for that client. There may be similarities, yes, but no 2 people are exactly the same. So I can't use a cookie cutter program. Do you agree with that? That people should be treated individually? That you should design programs that meet their individual needs rather than a cookie cutter program? I'd love to know if you agree with me on that. And I also want to know, have you struggled like that at all with the feelings of frustration and overwhelm? And Rayed says, yes, it should. He agrees with me that we need to be doing these individually. Excellent. Thank you. And Rita does too. Yeah. Thank you, Rita. You felt these struggles as well. Now, well, let's work on putting those to rest. Let me give you an example of what a day would be like for me. The first several years of my business, I'd see a client for the very first time, and all of our first appointments were scheduled to last an hour. I would ask the client to arrive 15 minutes early to take care of some paperwork. This was way back before the internet. I don't know how many of you are my age bracket, but the internet wasn't even a dream back then. And 9 times out of 10, my client would come racing in the door right at her appointment time. Like, okay, great. So now she's got this paperwork to do, and it was only 4 pages, but it was pages that I thought were important. She'd start filling them in, 10, 15 minutes into her appointment, she would have it done. Well, now we're 15 minutes behind. Then I'd ask her, what did she want my help with? I'd read what she'd written on her questionnaire, and I'd make some notes, and I'd ask her more questions. And by now we're at the 1 hour mark and we're nowhere near being done. So I'd start teaching her what I thought she needed to know. And it was always way over the top, way more than she could possibly absorb in one session. I'd be meandering all over the place, and this idea and that idea, and this idea and that idea. And they were all good ideas and they were all appropriate, but there was no focus. And so here we are then at about the 90-minute mark. And I finally have given her a couple of little suggestions to start working on. And we schedule her next appointment and we send her out the door. And then that evening I go to work and I create the program, create this nice folder with resources and recipes and instructions and reports and all kinds of stuff. And most of the time, she would cancel her second appointment. The few that I've got that have hung on for 38 years are the ones who didn't cancel appointments. But I couldn't for the life of me figure out what was going wrong. Why weren't they coming back? Hadn't I given them solutions to their problems? Is this sounding familiar? Hadn't I given them good value for their dollar? I was with her for like an hour and a half or 2. I only charged her for 1. And then she has no idea that I just spent 3 or 4 more hours and I'm just giving that to her for free if she'd just come back and pick the darn thing up. And it was just frustrating and it was discouraging. After a couple of years, it actually started circling in my head that, just get a real job. You'd make so much more money with a lot less stress working at McDonald's. Really, you would just go. That sound anything familiar? Is that how your client sessions go and your bookings go? I'd love to know if you've struggled like that too. Well, I'd love to see that in the chat box. I actually did try to get a job. I figured since I'd done a lot of part-time work in offices through high school and as summer jobs in high school and a university that I could get an office job. And what I soon learned was that I was actually unemployable. The standards for hiring part-time and summer students much lower than for bringing on a full-time hire. I was nowhere near good enough on a typewriter. So I was a failure. But I also knew in the back of my brain that there was something to this holistic stuff. I mean, this is the early 1980s I'm talking about, when this, we were just coming out of the hippie years, right? And we were getting into, it wasn't quite so strange to do whole grain things, to do natural sweeteners. So I knew we were on the leading edge of something. I also knew I wanted my business to be really different than what it had been. And I had a dream. I had a dream. I feel like I should break out in song every time I say that. But there I was, feeling discouraged and dejected. I was desperate for a solution. I'd had yet another 1 hour appointment turn into a 2 hour session, with the follow-up getting canceled. And I knew there had to be a better way. I just knew that no one taught it to me in school, and none of my mentors had taught it to me. So I needed to figure this out for myself. And I love what Linda says. My struggle with case studies was giving too much information. Yes, Linda, you get a gold star, because that is the struggle. That is one of the huge struggles. We're going to talk about that one specifically tonight for you. So this whole thing is what got me to where I am today. Even though now I can create health programs right in my sessions without any overtime, took a few years to figure that one out. I struggled. Like you, I took more courses, and a course on this and a course on that and a course on something else, hoping that somewhere in there I would find that magic key, the thing that was going to make all the difference. And it wasn't there. And I took iridology courses and they didn't help. And I took a constitutional iridology course, and as I took the course, I began to get clarity. It's not that constitutional iridology actually changed everything for me. It's that I learned it, and then I played with it and learned how to use it. I created a system of using it that helped me to understand and see how I was doing what Linda does. I was overloading my clients with too much information. I was going off on all kinds of tangents. And as I learned constitutional iridology, I learned how to focus. I learned how to laser in. I learned how to find the root of the problem. Along the way, I made another discovery. I learned that I actually knew enough herbology and I knew enough nutrition that I could help just about any client who came through my door. I didn't have to do extra research unless I really wanted to. Sometimes clients come in with really interesting problems, and I will go and do research because I just want to understand it, right? But I've learned I don't need to do that for most of my clients. So that really was helpful too. The other thing that I figured out was that I didn't know how to identify, sort, and prioritize what I already knew to create simple and effective programs for my clients. Right? Does that sound familiar? Don't know how to sort, prioritize, and what you know, and identify, sort, and prioritize what you know. Interesting, right? So when I finally figured that out, the solution became really, really clear. And so I'm so thankful that I learned constitutional iridology and that I played with it and experimented with it to come up with the system that I'm going to be giving you a bit of information about today. Because it's that iridology upon which I've built the program, the Dynamic Iridology Assessment System. I've been sharing this information with nutritionists and herbalists and naturopaths for the past several years so that they can skip over all the years of trial and error and struggle that I went through. So getting their client work done, right? So that they can actually just get on with helping people in a very effective way. Can you imagine being able to get your client programs done right in your paid client sessions? How would this one thing change your business? How would it change your life? I'd love to see some comments in the chat box about that. If you could get everything done right in your client session, would it change things for you? And how would it change things? This is how it changed things for one of my graduates. Karen Choate came to me as an already well-trained certified natural health practitioner, and she specializes in digestive health. She'd been in practice for several years before she found me, and she was frustrated that even with her years of training and experience, she still struggled sometimes to determine the roots of her clients' issues and to create programs that her clients could actually stick with. She'd spent a lot of time after hours and unpaid doing research to create programs, even though she really already knew her stuff. She got interested in iridology. She found me online. She signed up for the Dynamic Iridology Assessment System program. And as the program progressed, she shared the successes she was having already and how it had affected her clients. And this is what she said. She was only halfway through the course. She said, "Now I've begun to implement this incredible work in my practice quite successfully. It has truly immensely helped in my decisions and assessments." Right? So she only knew not even half of what we were going to learn, and she was feeling increased confidence already. Linda says it would change things for myself, but also for my clients. They would leave with a plan. They would have a plan. Yeah, brilliant. And that's what we need. That's what we need to do for our clients, right? It's so important. So, what would it feel like to have no unpaid homework? You don't have to put in overtime creating client programs anymore. What would you do with that time? What would it feel like to feel confident in the recommendations you want to make and to be making those recommendations on the spot? With getting all your programs designed right in your sessions, it's going to free up some time. What would you do with that free time? Would that enable you to see more clients or to take up a hobby or to spend more time with family? How would it feel if your appointment book was happily full with clients who love you, who love working with you, and who can't stop telling their friends about you, so you never have to advertise again? Let me know in the comments, which of those things would you like to have the most of? And it's okay to put all four if you want them. So now that we've identified, yeah, Rita wants them all, and so does Linda. Yeah, well done. Yeah, we're going to head that direction for you tonight. Now that we've identified the four most common problems and we've started visualizing how you really want your business and your life to be, are you ready to dive into learning the four things that you can start doing today to start moving your business in the direction that you want it to go? You ready? Yes, please. You betcha, Rita. Absolutely, Linda. And Rad says yes as well. Thank you so much. Thank you. Here's what I know for sure. Today, I'm going to give you four very specific steps that can give you back time and create repeat business. Every one of these steps will work. They will all work better when you have dynamic iridology under your belt as well. So what I'm giving you will work. It will have an impact. Adding iridology is going to, it's probably not the best analogy in the health circle, but it's going to be like taking these four solutions and putting them on steroids. Okay. And you can LOL if you want on that. So this is the dynamic iridology assessment system is the simplest and quickest way to get control of your client hours, to grow your business, and to have the impact that you want to have while putting you in complete control of your time and ability to make money. Thank you, Linda. I appreciate that. At any time during this web class, if you are thinking, holy moly, this is amazing stuff, I want to dive deeper, I want the training and the mentoring, well, I'm going to tell you at the end how I can help you make that happen, because you won't ever be highly successful if your confidence is sagging. And I'm here to support you in getting your professional confidence up and helping you create the wellness coaching business that you've always envisioned. So you ready to look at those four solutions, and let's look at what we can do about them. Okay, so the first problem actually that we're going to talk about is you fire hose your clients with too much information. Oh, does that sound familiar, Linda? Just wondering. Every one of these little stumbling blocks has a simple strategy as well. And because, we don't invent something until we've got a problem, right? Got a problem, need a solution. So I want you to see how many of these sound familiar and how the solutions fit for you. So in school, we were taught to create programs based on the case study model. Is that sounding familiar? We were given a description of a client who had a health concern. And then we hit the books. I hit the books. If you're younger than me, you probably went to the internet and you did research and you designed and you crafted and you wrote and you created a case study program that contained everything your client needs to know from now till the day they die. Right? And you create your programs for your clients now because that's how they taught you to do it in school. And that means you don't know how to do it any other way, probably. And you don't think you know enough in your brain to actually create a program on the spot. Problem is, and I think Linda's seen this, when you give your clients that information, that much information, they feel overwhelmed. They leave your office looking like deer in the headlights, or worse, they're discouraged. Your clients will really try to do what you've outlined. They might succeed for 36 hours. And then they realize, I can't do this. It's too big. It's too much. And you know what? She's never coming back. She can't be as perfect as you wanted her to be, as you told her she should be. And it doesn't matter if you said she didn't need to be perfect. She didn't hear that. She now feels like a massive failure in one step. No one wants to go back and say, I failed. I couldn't do any of this, right? So have you ever seen that in your clients, that they felt like failures? Maybe. Here's the hard truth. When you fire hose your clients with too much information, you've successfully made their appointment and their health and their program, oh, this is going to hurt, all about you, your insecurities, and your need to be right. Ouch. When I first realized that, oh my goodness, I can't even describe how I felt. So what do you want to do about this instead? And Linda, you alluded to this earlier. There is only one solution, and that is really hard to implement when you only know how to do case studies, but it is to give them less homework. Your client doesn't need to know everything right now. They just need to know what is the next step. You know that if they get that next step in place, and that next step might be drinking 8 glasses of water a day. It might be having a large leafy green salad every day. It might be reducing their coffee from 8 cups a day to 2 cups a day. It might be going for a 20-minute walk every day. You know how those changes are going to impact them and what they're going to feel. Now, is it going to be a night and day difference? Probably not for them, but there will be a measurable incremental improvement. And by giving them just a few tiny key changes to work on, they stand a chance of being successful. So chunk it down, because when they're successful, they want to come back and they want to tell you that they did good and they got results. And look at this, they're sleeping better, or they're less fatigued in the day. They don't need a nap in the afternoon, or, their gut's feeling better, or the headaches are starting to get less. And you can do that one step at a time. So chunk it down. Make it so much easier for them. And you know what the next step is. When you're in the appointment, you don't need 3 hours of homework to figure that out. Stumbling block number 2, you start at the wrong place in their program. So you already know you can't correct a leaky gut if the stomach isn't producing enough acid. You already know you can't help them lose weight and through diet and exercise if their intestinal flora is out of balance. You can't help them if you start at the wrong place in the program. When we don't know where the starting point is, we tend to overcompensate And we give way too much information, hoping that somewhere in that information is the right piece to get them going. So tell me in the comments if you've ever done that, given way too much information because you weren't sure which was the most crucial piece of information to give them right now. You didn't know exactly where to start. I want to see that. Or maybe you're giving them that much information because you think the client expects it. I know I've had clients that when I've given them their simple programs, they said, "Is that all?" I said, "Yes." They said, "Well, I've been to other nutritionists and they gave me way more to do." And then I asked them, "And how'd that go for you?" "I couldn't do it all." "Okay, my point exactly. I've given you 2 pieces of homework. Can you do that?" "Yeah." "Then I'm not giving you one bit more until you've shown me that you're going to do this and do it well." Right? And they get it. They get it. So we've all done that, right? We've all given too much information because we didn't know where to begin. So here is the strategy, the simple strategy here. And it's, you have to find where the beginning is. You have to find the root of the problem. If you're going to help your client achieve long-term results, doable success, you have to know where the beginning is. So you need to create a map, and this is going to be a map that's going to be in your notes that you keep on your clients. I call it a therapeutic sequence, where you take the client's symptom, and we all know the symptom does not equal the problem, right? The symptom is on the surface. The problem is what's way down deep beneath. And you're going to take that symptom and you're going to trace it back till you find the root of the problem. And that's going to help you outline the steps you need to follow. But you're going to start with the steps that are at the very back, at the very root of the problem. And you're going to work on that. And when they've got that mastered, then you come up a level and up a level and up a level. And of course, as you do that, their symptoms are disappearing. You're going to use this map or therapeutic sequence in every appointment because you'll have several steps outlined in this. I'm actually going to show you how to do this at the end of our time today. And so Linda says, "I've decided I will start with the gut health." And for some people, depending on what your specialty is, starting with gut health is often a good thing to do. It may not be appropriate for everyone you're working with. And so if you have someone who comes in who's got a different kind of a problem where it's harder to trace it back to gut health, you might have to do the tracing and figure out for this client, what is the root of the problem? Okay. And so at the end of appointment number 1, you've got this little list of steps that you want to take your client through, written down in the margin of your notes for your client, that your client's never going to see this list. This is for you, for your eyes only. At the end of appointment number 1, they've got their homework. You're going to say to them something like this. When I see you next time, whenever that is, if you're getting the results that I'm expecting to see, we are going to move on to working on this particular aspect of the problem. Now, this actually helps your client on 3 levels. Number 1, it tells them that you've heard them clearly, because the symptom is not the problem. And when we're working on the problem, if they don't understand that connection, they're thinking that we didn't hear them, that we're just going off on a wild goose chase. So when we're saying, we explain to them how the symptom is connected to the root, and that we're going to start on the root and we're going to build from there and see incremental improvements, they know they've been heard. The second thing it does is it tells your client that you're smart enough that you've got a plan. You're not shooting in the dark here. You know exactly how to get to the answer for them, how to get them feeling better. Number 3, it reinforces for them that they need to be on point with their homework. They need to do their stuff to earn the results so that you can go on to the next level. I often tell my clients, I can only do my best work when they do their best work. Stumbling block number 3. Does this sound like you at all? Some nutrition coaches have these computerized assessments or these biometric doodads that you hold on to or you touch, you take a picture of your skin or whatever. I've had them over the years, different iterations of them, and I've gotten rid of every single one of them for a couple of reasons. First off, I wasn't overly impressed with their accuracy. And Linda, I'm so glad that made sense for you. I wasn't over impressed with the accuracy of these doodads. I really, really wasn't. They seem to always be changing up, and you know, if you ran 2 scans back to back, you'd get radically different answers, or 3 days apart, you'd get wildly different answers. And that wasn't good. But my clients didn't see it that way, and they were infatuated with the tech. They started coming and saying, "We're going to do a scan today." And I finally just threw the machines out, literally. I didn't even try to sell them. I didn't want anybody else having this experience, because my value as a holistic practitioner is me. It's me. It's the fact that I'm listening. It's the fact that I'm hearing what you're saying. Anybody can do a scan. I realized I could be replaced by these gadgets. These people, if they found the websites, they could buy these gadgets. They could do this for themselves, right? And so I wanted to make sure that that didn't happen. I wanted to make sure that our relationship was rich and fulfilling, and that my people felt a connection. Now, if you're using a doodad or a biometric scanner or something, I'm not going to hold that against you, but golly, I sure struggled with that. And, you know, lengthy questionnaires are no better. I actually don't even use a questionnaire anymore. I have a release form, a waiver, an informed consent form, whatever you want to call it, but I don't use a questionnaire anymore, because I use the iridology as my intake form, along with what my client says they want help with. So stumbling block number 3 is these biometric doodads and long questionnaires. So what do we want to do instead? We want to learn the art of asking the right kinds of questions, of asking client-specific questions. There's so much more power in a client-specific question, well-designed client-specific, than there ever will be in a biometric doodad or in a long questionnaire. You know, when you master this skill with practice, and iridology sure helps with this, you'll get clients saying to you on the very first appointment, "I've never told this to anybody else." And when they say that to you, you know you've actually struck a chord with them, and there is now a connection. They trust you. And that's what we need. That's what we want. We want them to trust us. And we do that by asking questions that are so specific to them that we couldn't have found any other way, really, except by using their eyes. Stumbling block number 4, this is another ouch. You are not unique. You blend in with the nutrition coaching crowd. Ouch, 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 right? Because, Linda, I'm not pointing fingers at you, but since I know exactly where you graduated from, CSNN, everybody who graduated when you do, they've got the same training you've got. You have to find a way to be unique, to stand out. And, you know, none of these programs that we do, whether it's CSNN or the Alive Academy or Edison or the international, what is it? There's a school in the States, INH, maybe something like that, HIN, something. None of them has any curriculum content that teaches you how to be unique and how to get noticed. Not one. I think it should be a core class in every program, personally. Being unique as a nutrition coach or as a herbalist does not mean you've got a recipe book or a Facebook page. It means you've got a unique skill set that adds value to what you do. You've got something beyond what that diploma says you've got. And I know a lot of nutritionists and herbalists who go on and do what I used to do, which is take every class we could find. We were adding skills and tools, right? But 5 years down the road, looking back, it's like, I haven't used that $3,000 course at all. Right. So was it necessarily a good investment, or was it just what I call shiny object syndrome, looking for something else, right? Can you see how, and Linda's saying that's correct, right on. Can you see how any one of these 4 stumbling blocks are costing you money, either by spending too much time creating programs, or literally doing things that drive clients away, or simply not allowing you to attract new clients? Can you see that in here? Because here's the thing, the more training in nutrition or herbology or holistic health you've got, I mean, it's a good thing, right? And you've got more training in those areas than most other people that are walking the face of the earth. But what you need to learn is how to use what you know, how to put it together in a user-friendly way that makes sense for your clients. So if you decide to join me in the Confident Nutritionist Dynamic Iridology Assessment System, you will learn exactly how to use iridology to ask the best questions and help you create those amazing, doable programs for your clients. So now you've got a choice. You can keep on doing what you're doing, hoping things will magically change. I think they call that the definition of insanity. While you continue working unpaid overtime and continue missing time with loved ones so you can keep overwhelming your clients so they won't come back, while you get discouraged and keep thinking, I should get a real job. Or you can make some radical changes in what you do and how you think so you can ditch the overtime and have a life that actually includes time with your loved ones, because you give your clients exactly and precisely what they need to succeed. So they want to keep coming back again and again, while you think, I love the career I've created for myself. A or B? No judgment here. You can decide where you want to be with this. This is where iridology comes in, because the dynamic iridology assessment system is so much more than just an iridology course. It's actually a mentorship program that can help you put an end to your unpaid homework while helping you integrate all the great things you already know. Did you ever take extra classes and at the end of the coursework you realized that it was great information, but it would never integrate well with what you already did? And so you really couldn't use it easily? Yeah, I did a lot of those too. Rita's asking, how long is the course? Rita, we are just about there, just about there. I'm going to start giving you lots of details, because this is how I created my success. Want to run through just a couple of quick case studies so you can see how this works. These are the eyes of one of my third generation clients. She's 2 years old. Look at these beautiful brown eyes. Aren't they just something? And when her mom brought her in, her mom said, you know, she's been getting sick lately, and they've got an organic, a really healthy diet, loving home. It's really, really a lovely family. She said, my daughter's getting sick more often and she's a little bit whiny. I don't know what's going on. Can you fix her? And so I looked at her eyes, and what I see is she's got contraction furrows. And she's also got right here a bit of a fermentation sign. And so I asked her mom, what's her diet like? She's good. And I said, does she crave sweets? And I cannot see anything. I saw only turn off all. Okay, so I'm wondering, I've had this problem before with Zoom. I had this problem yesterday. Can you see my slides? Are you looking at a pair of eyes? Or have you just been listening to me? You can't, oh, dang. You're feeling like this is the longest class you've ever had, right? Oh my goodness. Okay, thank you. Because I shared this and my system says it's sharing. Let me change and try again. Dang. Are you seeing anything different now? You've got them now? Thank you. Oh my goodness. Well, that was Chinese water torture for you for the last hour then, wasn't it? Hopefully not. I had some great graphics there that you missed out on. I'm sorry. You know what? It did this to me yesterday too. Golly. And Linda, thank you so much. Thank you. That's a sweet compliment. I appreciate that. All right, now you can see the eyes. So little girl has contraction furrows. Little girl has fermentation sign. And thank you for letting me know that this was not doing what it was supposed to do. And so looking at that, I asked the mom, what's her diet like? Now I know their diet is like organic and fresh and nothing prepackaged. Everything's cooked from scratch. Her mom wrote a recipe book, for Pete's sake. And so the mom said, yeah, you know, she eats what we eat. And I said, okay, so is she craving sweets? Is she asking for like more fruit? Oh yeah, she'd fill her face with fruit all day if I would let her. I went, okay, so we got some things going on here. And it was, what we ended up doing is we ended up giving her liquid methylated B vitamins, 2 tablespoons of hemp hearts every day. And we got rid of all of the fruit except for fresh berries, because you know your nutrition and you know that fresh berries have a lower glycemic reaction than most other fruits. And so by doing these things, and I only need to do those from the eyes, the contraction furrows tell me she burns through B vitamins, vitamin C, calcium, and magnesium very quickly. And this tells me that her body's not handling carbohydrates well. You know, if she's only 2 and she's feeling stressed, what does stress do to your immune response, right? And so when we got her onto the low carb fruit and we got her increasing her good fats and her proteins with some hemp hearts, and we got her onto methylated liquid B, her mother called me about a week later and said, oh my goodness, I have my little girl back. She's my sweet little girl again. And then we did a follow-up about a month later, and she said, you know, that this month has been the longest she's gone without getting a sniffle of some kind in a long time. And she said her behavior has just settled down. And I was so excited to hear that, but I wouldn't have known to cut out the high sugar fruit, or that she necessarily needed the increased protein and the B vitamins specifically if I hadn't seen her eyes. Another case, and then we're going to talk about the course itself. This is a client of mine, mid-30s. She and her husband had been trying to get pregnant for the past year. And she came in very anxious, very anxious. She's got contraction furrows as well, which can mean predisposition to high anxiety. And she was high anxiety. Oh my goodness, was she ever. And so looking at these eyes, first off, I asked her about her menstrual cycle, because that's where you start when someone's trying to get pregnant. And one of the things that she said was that, and I also asked her that because she's got these markings over here, coming around here, that tell me she's prone to certain kinds of hormonal imbalances, not always reproductive, but definitely endocrine. And so I asked her, what are your periods like? She said, well, you know, when I get my period every 28 days, it's barely a smear. I don't even need a panty liner. That's not a period, right? That's not a period. And nobody else had ever addressed that with her. I asked her about her anxiety and how does she cope with it. And she said, you know, she says, well, my husband and I go to the mountains every weekend so I can offload stress. I thought that was great, but probably not enough. I suspected from looking at her eyes that she also had the MTHFR defect. So that means that she probably was unable to methylate her B vitamins properly. And what we know about MTHFR is that women who have MTHFR, and it's between 25 and 50% of all North Americans have MTHFR to a certain level. And that's a genetic anomaly. And we know that women who have MTHFR typically also have problems with fertility. So we know that how we deal with MTHFR is we give them methylated Bs. Okay, so we don't have time to go into all of the ins and outs of MTHFR and why the methylated Bs, but we looked at this and I started her on methylated Bs right away. I gave her a prenatal vitamin that had the methylated Bs in it. And it took her about 6 months. And she phoned me one day. It was very funny. I get this phone call saying, I have to wear a pad. But I'm going, that is so stinking awesome. Good for you. Because we had rebalanced her hormones to where she was actually building in an endometrial lining that she could shed. which if you don't have an endometrial lining, you can't get pregnant, right? So we got that done, but I would not have known to do the methylated bees with her if I hadn't seen this little thing in her eye that made me think MTHFR. Now, interestingly, halfway through the pregnancy, she did 23andMe. And she sent me an email, and my computer was vibrating on my desk with the energy in that email, was just literally shaking. And 23andMe said she has the MTHFR defect. And she said, oh my goodness, my baby, is my baby okay? I said, whoa, deep breath, time for deep breath. Take a deep breath. I said, because I suspected this all along. I've had your back since like the very first appointment. She kind of went, oh, thank goodness. Right. And so that was very cool. She had a good pregnancy, has a beautiful baby boy, and we are now working on trying to help her with another pregnancy. All right. So enough of that. Let's talk about the program, because that's what you're all really here for, right? All right, so if you're ready to make some radical changes, or if you just really want to learn iridology, this is great because you are in the right place. Let's look at this. Confident Nutritionist, the dynamic iridology assessment system, is the only 20-week, there's the answer to how long is the course, 20-week, fully mentored constitutional iridology training program for holistic practitioners like you that is designed to help you incorporate what you already know about herbology and or nutrition while mastering iridology and while building your confidence as a practitioner. It is a step-by-step course that teaches iridology in a logical and sequential manner. It is delivered via 20 live 2-hour-long webinars, and it contains all the curriculum you need should you decide to take the International Iridology Practitioners Association exam and to certify with them. Some of my students don't want to certify, and that's perfectly fine. For those that do, we make sure that you're ready for the exam. So what do we cover in the program? Well, in the 20 weeks, lesson 1 is the introduction, history, anatomy. We have to know where it's come from, how it's developing as a science. We have to know anatomy from the perspective of an iridologist, which is different than most other people. And we also go over how the eye shows the inherent potentials and acquired health concerns. Lessons 2 through 4 give you a solid base. You can tell so much about a person's chemistry, about their inherent chemistry, by understanding the colors of the eye and the different colors that show up in an eye. We look at pigments in the eyes as well, because when we understand pigments, and those are little freckly colors in the eye, when we understand that, we understand which organs are inherently predisposed to being stressed out. And we also understand which other organs are going to suffer the fallout from the stressed out organs, right? Kind of like that saying, if the mom ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. If the liver ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, right? And so if we see liver pigment in other organs, we know that the liver is trying to make other organs cranky as well. We look at fiber variations, because not all eyes just have fiber that radiates outward nice and neat and tidy. And so we're actually going to look at 15 specific different fiber variations and to understand where some of the inherent and hidden health concerns might be for a person. We're going to look at the pupil shape, because your pupils aren't round. You might not have known that. And pupil shape teaches us about the nervous system and about spinal alignment, and it's very, very dynamic. So if we see the pupil doing funky shapes, little flattenings or ovals or whatever, we know what kinds of problems we're looking for, and we know, we need to send this person to a chiropractor, an osteopath, or somewhere to work on things. In lesson 10, we spent a lot of time looking at the digestive tract, the nutritive zone, as we call it, to understand between nutritive zone and collarette, to understand how the person digests, how they transport nutrients, how they assimilate nutrients. We look at how the muscles and the bones use nutrients, and that's our humeral and ciliary zone. Remember those other pictures we looked at contraction furrows and they looked like little bits of wrinkles going around in the eye? We actually look at about a dozen different kinds of contraction furrows because they each mean a slightly different thing and give us a deeper understanding as to how this person's nervous system functions. We look at syndromes. Syndromes are really simple, like sets of markers, 2 or 3 markers that point us in a very specific direction and give us a very clear idea of what we need to do long-term to prevent problems. We talk about how eyes change because the irides and the sclerae do change, and we need to understand why eyes change and what impact we can have, if any. We talk about sclerology, the whites of the eye, where the iris itself is genetically determined. The whites of the eye are very transient. They show us what's going on right now. So the iris is what you've inherited for health potential from the past 3 or 4 generations, where the sclera is, I know what you did, right? And because we start to see those problems popping up. And you know that the white of the eye is really responsive, right? If you've ever had a really good cry and then looked in the mirror and seen how many blood vessels are showing, and then an hour later when you've calmed down, how the eye has calmed down, the vessels in the eye are very, very expressive that way. And of course, lesson 20, we make sure you are, that you're wrapped up, that you know what needs to happen in order to finish certification if you so choose. So again, the program is delivered via 20 live 2-hour-long webinars. Now, I am going to ask you to consider, so it's 40 hours of training minimum, right? Classroom time. If you were to do a 40-hour class as a 5 or 6 day workshop, what kind of expenses would you be covering? You'd have the tuition for the course. You would probably have to travel to where the course was, which means you'd probably have hotel and airfare and meals while you're there. You would probably need to buy materials for the course, textbooks or things like that. Maybe you're leaving expenses behind as well, like childcare or pet care or someone to water the plants and bring in the mail or to look in on your elderly parents. We did the math once and we figured out that to travel somewhere to take a course like this that takes that long would cost about 4,200 US dollars, which is somewhere around the neighborhood of 5,500 to 6,000 Canadian dollars. And so I want you to keep those numbers in mind. The other thing that I'm going to ask you to consider is your learning style. Do you learn best by being inundated with information for 5 or 6 days? Or do you learn best by learning a little bit and then having time to practice it and study it and implement it and turn it over in your brain, then come back and learn the next level? If you like inundation, great. This is not going to be the course for you. You're going to get really frustrated because we don't do it that way. If you like a little bit that you can go and practice and study and make sure it sits straight and that you've got it, then come back and build on that, then this is going to work well for you. And I'm the second type. I need the time. I don't do well when I'm just spewed upon with tons of information. So the value of this program is $23.95 Canadian dollars. That's the value of the curriculum alone. And so as we look at this, let's see what else we've got. Oh yeah, we've got the lovely Sharon Bimrose, naturopath from Australia. This is what she said about the course. She said, and she had studied iridology already as a naturopath, but she said that this course surpassed her previous training in structure, content, delivery, documentation, and support. Iridology has certainly reduced the time required for prioritizing a treatment plan. Sharon used to write her programs on her own time. She doesn't do that anymore, which is a good thing. We met Karen earlier, and this is what she said after she had graduated. I just returned from a regenerative detoxification course where iridology is implemented. I spread the word about what a wonderful teacher you are. Most people I talked with did not have anywhere near the same experience with their iridology education. No support, unanswered questions, and a lot of confusion. Mostly they finished their classes not knowing how to implement what they had learned. I feel so absolutely blessed to have been taught by you. I feel totally supported, even still as I have graduated almost 3 years ago now. I don't think there's anyone out there practicing, educating, and teaching iridology like you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. really important to me that when my students leave this class, they know how to do this. She also said, when I asked in the private Facebook group for my students, how has learning iridology constitutional helped you in your business? And she said, it's helped me to understand the relationships between different organs and organ systems more in depth. Iridology also gives me an advantage of seeing potentials for different genetic traits and qualities that may be underlying. By observing the constitution, for example, you can extrapolate how the person's body will likely respond to applications of healing methods. Therefore, it has helped me to expand my knowledge and increased efficiency at providing more precise recommendations for health-oriented options. Love that. So when we do the class itself, it's done as a live webinar, and I encourage all of my students to actually have their microphones and their cameras turned on. I really like to see their faces, and I need to hear their voices, and they need to ask questions as they have them, and they need to engage in conversation as well, as we sometimes dive a little bit deeper with those little side trips than we would otherwise. So what if you're doing the class and you're coming every week and you're studying hard in between, but a concept doesn't stick? What happens then? Every class is recorded, and hopefully Zoom works better than it did tonight. Those recordings are posted on your student site. And actually, we make sure it works because there's always a student who will call me out immediately if the Zoom isn't working properly. So you get a recording of every class in your student site. It's like getting the class 2 times over, $23.95 value. What if you only have one topic in one little part of a class that's not sitting straight? Well, every topic has its own recording as well. You can go and just review the individual topics that you need to. This is kind of like the Cliff's Notes or Cole's Notes version if you had those in school. I didn't find out about them until it was too late, unfortunately. When you do a class, an iridology class, every teacher has you purchase a textbook, and most of the iridology textbooks that are out there that are really good are about 250 Canadian dollars. And they have their favorite iridology map, and they make you buy one of those if you don't have one as well. In this course, as a bonus, I give my students a digital downloadable textbook, a 200-page textbook, and a digital downloadable iris map, $275 value. Now the cheat sheets. This is the true Cole's Notes of the course. We've taken all of the curriculum, distilled it down into 45 pages of really easy to reference charts, and just, you know, it's a booklet basically that you download and print up, and it's a $175 value. I don't know of any other teacher that has this. I've actually had other instructors ask if they could buy my textbook, and it's not for sale outside of the class. I'm very protective of it for that reason. And no other teacher has cheat sheets either. Now, the private Facebook group and the office hours webinars, I've given those each a value of $10,000, so $20,000 combined. And you might be thinking, that's a pretty egotistical number. She's pretty full of herself. And let me tell you why I'm not. I've done a lot of courses and a lot of business mentoring things where I've been paying to learn information. And often it's like a 6-month time limit, and I've paid, you know, $5,000 or $6,000 for it. And at the end of the 6 months, you get locked out of the Facebook group, for instance. So there's no more ongoing coaching. I don't do that. I do not believe in cutting off my students. I still actually occasionally go back to my instructor who taught me 27 years ago and say, I got a question, and he'll answer it for me. He hasn't cut me off. So I don't cut off my students. So we've got a private Facebook group just for my students and grads. And we have office hours twice a month where students can bring cases that they're working on, and we can discuss them as a group. And this is all online, so it doesn't matter where you live. And you're never going to be kicked out unless you get really mean and nasty, which I don't attract that kind of people, so we won't have that problem. And so this is really long-term mentoring. For as long as I am teaching, I am available to mentor you. And it's a part of the program. You're never going to be just thrown out like throw the baby out with the dishwater, right? The office hours are recorded and they're stored on the student site for 18 months. So if you presented a case, you got pictures of a client's eyes, and I teach you how to do that with your cell phone to get decent pictures. They're not great, but they're usable. And you've brought those to office hours. We've talked about them. Maybe we went way beyond where you're already at in the class, because we've got, as soon as you're enrolled in the program, you get to start coming to office hours. And maybe we actually went into the advanced concepts from the end of the class, and you're not ready to actually hear that. Well, you can go back to the recording and you can listen to that. And as you learn more and you understand more, it becomes even more valuable to you. Susan Petipus is one of my other grads. And she very specifically talks in here, and I'm not going to read through all of this. She's a master herbalist. She talks about the easy to navigate program, including the cheat sheets, which are an amazing and invaluable tool. She loves the way that I have set up a system of step-by-step iris assessment, and that we don't just teach iris markers. I don't just say, you know, we call this marker such and such. It's, here's the marker. This is what we understand about it. What do we want to do with this? How does this marker give us information about our client's current situation? And when we understand that, what dietary recommendations do we want to make? What herbal recommendations can we make? Are there some lifestyle recommendations we can make? So we begin integrating the nutrition, the herbology, the lifestyle things, all the things that you normally want to teach your client into an iris assessment. And I integrate that in the learning of this course as well, so that you know how to use this. I've had people come to me that have said, and they've certified with other IPA instructors, and these IPA instructors are really nice people. And these graduates of their programs have come to me and said, will you mentor me? Why? Well, because I don't know how to use what I was taught. Go back to your instructor. My instructor says, figure it out. It's like, whoa, yeah, not happening here. So just so you know. All right. Like I said, not all of my students choose to certify, but I do encourage my students to go through IPA Exam 1 and IPA Exam 2, because those are exams that I get to oversee. IPA Exam 1, I provide you with 10 sets of digital iPhotos. You do complete assessments, and you'll never use iridology this way ever again. And you do the assessment, you write up a protocol. And when you've got the 10 done, you send them to me. I grade them. I read every word of them. Then you and I meet together in a private one-on-one to go over what are your strong points, what needs a bit of spit and polish, how did this pull together, and do I think this was a really well done thing? 9 times out of 10 it is. If in these 10 I'm feeling like not quite got it, I'll give you a couple more to do. You do them, you give them to me, I mark them, we meet again, we make sure you're on track. When we both agree that you're solid, then we do IPA Exam 2, which is a case study that IPA has given me. I give it to you. You write it up, send it in to me. I mark it. We spend an hour going over just the one case this time, and we make sure you're ready. If you've decided to certify, then then you buy a student membership with IPA. I tell IPA that you are ready to go. And then you contact IPA and you pay for your final exam and write it. In order to be certified, you do need to also provide proof, either through credentials or a transcript of 1 year of college level anatomy and physiology. So where Rad is a medical doctor, if he's got his doctor diploma, he just needs to show that he's good for A&P. Where Linda did her anatomy and physiology with CSNN, that is an approved course. And so you just need to show your CSNN transcript that shows anatomy and physiology with a grade of 80% or above, and that you've met the requirement, okay? Now, beyond this, like I said, there is an IPA Exam 3, which is your own expense, and you only get to do it when I've told IPA that you have met all the prerequisites. So the value of this program with the core curriculum and all of the bonuses is $31,000. because that's a lot of stuff that I'm giving you as a bonus. Really, it is a ton. Even just the mentoring, my goodness, I pay $1,000 a month for business mentoring, and it gets cut off, if you, and so this is a fabulous bonus. It truly is. And so with all of this, I could sell a course for 31,000, but it would defeat my purpose. My purpose is at 31,000, if I sold 3 or 4 a year, I'd be happy, right? Teach one-on-one, everyone's good, works great. But my purpose here is to help more practitioners not struggle the way I did. And so I have come up with something that I think is a more equitable starting point. I think we'll just go with $23.95 Canadian, not American. So some of you are in the States. What does that mean? $23.95 Canadian when you pay for this using your PayPal account, because it's your credit card through PayPal, because that's the payment that I accept is PayPal. It's going to come out to be somewhere around $1,800 US, right? So that's very cool. We don't have anybody from Australia here, do we? Or from the UK? Anyone? Okay, no? Great, then I won't go over exchange rates with them then. What if you're thinking, I want the course, I don't have $23.95 Canadian sitting in my back pocket just waiting to be invested? Is there a payment plan? There sure is. 5 payments of $549 per month, right? And so what does that look like when we're talking about conversion to different currencies? It looks like this. So US, it's about 405 US. Now, you know that exchange rates fluctuate and everybody takes an extra percent or two for various things. So these are round numbers. It's not going to be exactly these conversion numbers, but it will be close. It will be something close to that. All righty. So pretty reasonably priced considering you don't have to quit working, right? One class for 2 hours once a week, that's it. How do you get into this course? Well, the course is starting on January 28th. Now you're thinking, yeah, but we're only beginning of November. That's a long time away. A couple of things you need to know. I limit my classes to 10 students because I want my students to have enough time to ask the questions and get the personal attention they need. And for those of you who are prepared to make this move, the little perk that I'm going to give you is if you want to get started right now, if you're just super excited and you're thinking, yeah, get me in here, I will give you access to the home study version of the course. So you can start studying on your own right now, and come like about January 25th, I will take away access to the home study program and give you access to the fully mentored program instead. So you can actually start studying right away. You'd also have access to the Facebook group instantly and to the office hours as well. So again, for anybody who gets registered before November 18th, you'll get early access to the home study version of the program, which contains the exact same curriculum. It just doesn't contain the actual live classes part, right? It's got everything recorded, and you can do it that way till class starts. I've also added a little extra content to the program to teach you how to take photos with a smartphone, to teach your clients how to get their photos with a smartphone so they can send them to you so that you can then digitally or over the internet, you can do an iris assessment appointment with them, right? Because if you're in a lockdown area, then you really need to be able to get their photos. And if I can teach you a simple way to get photos, they won't be perfect, but they will be usable. All right. Again, only 10 students per class. And when it's full, and we close off registration and you go on a waiting list. Registration will absolutely be closing on January 22nd, but it is only students who register before November 18th that get the access to the home study program to get started on their own. And so you can see this is the registration link right here. If you are ready to take advantage of that, iridology.education/enroll and the number 1. And that was supposed to be copy and pasteable, but Zoom did not want to cooperate with me on making that. So this is Michelle Davies. She came to me with an intimidating amount of certification already. She had iridology certification level 1, 2, 3 from David Pesic. She'd also has done the iridology in professional practice with Darko Purse. Now, what she said is this was the most amazing course because it taught her how to put it all together and make a proper assessment. Now, she learned a ton of iridology as well, but no one else taught her how to pull it together to make an assessment. What good is a skill if they don't teach you how to use it? I have no idea. This is Stephanie. She has a master's in education. And so she said she's a smart cookie, right? She's smart. I have several books on iridology, and I tried to teach myself and spent hours on YouTube watching various portions of classes and presentations. They were so conflicting and confusing and overwhelming. I told my husband, this is beyond me. I'm not getting this at all. And then she goes on to talk about her experience in the class. Again, master's in education. And she says, Judith offers her students a practical, well-designed curriculum. The pace allows students to retain information. I greatly appreciate the emphasis put on putting knowledge into practice. Every interaction and resource is professional and helpful. Okay, so that is really excellent, because that's what I wanted it to be. Wanted everything to work. So if that all sounds amazing to you, again, the course is starting on Thursday, January 28th, 5 to 7 p.m. Mountain Time. So if you are further east from the Rocky Mountains, it's going to be a little later in the evening. If you are in the UK, my apologies, it's at midnight. I have students that, because of that, they enroll in the live program so they can have the class recordings, and then they come to the office hours on the days when we do it at noon, because that's 7 p.m. their time, right? So there's ways to work around things here. And we've got the Facebook group. They ask questions on Facebook. And then my grads can answer. I've got some really smart grads, really I do. If you are thinking, I want to do this, but I've got questions, I'm not 100% sure, I'm like 90% sure, then I invite you instead to book a call. Let's have a chat. My calls aren't to strong arm you into the course. I don't want students in the course that I've had to strong arm. The purpose of the call is to make sure that you're feeling confident about this, right? So calendly.com/dynamic-iridology/insight-call. Pathetically long. It was supposed to be pasteable. Unfortunately, it's not. So again, I don't have a whole lot of slots for doing phone calls, but if you're thinking, I want the course, I need to have a few more questions answered, book a call. Let's have a chat. But if you know you want it, then just get in. You know, I'm no different than you. I started my business from scratch, did it the way I was taught, made a ton of mistakes along the way. I didn't have anyone to mentor me along, except when I started studying iridology. Then my teacher was brilliant. When I learned constitutional, he was wonderful. And but I've developed this system, and I've proven it over nearly 3 decades. It works. And I share it with my students very generously, because I don't want any practitioner struggling the way I did. It's not good for the industry to have us doing all this studying and then to not be using it. We did this studying so that we could help people. And if we can't help them, that's frustrating. So again, if you want to get in on the registration, hop on over there right now. So remember why you're here today. Maybe you're here because you don't feel as confident as you want to when you're in client sessions. You're tired of feeling that imposter syndrome. It's really silly that we feel inadequate like that and unsure, but we've got that imposter syndrome, and a lot of it is because of the way we were trained, actually. No one wants to go to a practitioner who has imposter syndrome, because you know what? Your clients can tell when you're doubting yourself. Maybe you came because you're tired of spending hours of your own time, unpaid, creating protocols, it's not a good use of your time. It reduces your income. It slurps up your energy. It limits the good you can accomplish, and it overloads your clients. If you're spending 3 or 4 hours creating an information package for them, that's about 3 or 4 hours more information than they need and then that they can absorb. You can't do that to your clients and think that they're going to be successful. If you want to quit the unpaid overtime, the dynamic iridology assessment system is a great way to do that. If you're tired of constantly finding new clients, iridology is a great way to get your clients feeling connected to you, to help you laser focus your programs, your next step programs that your clients can manage. And as they are more successful, they start chatting you up. And as they start chatting you up, your appointment book gets fuller. Maybe you came because you're just tired of feeling like you should get a real job, because it sucks your confidence, it sucks your energy. And, you know, I really doubt that you would do more good for the world if you got a real job. So I promised you a stay to the end gift. I apologize that I can't copy and paste this because of how Zoom was behaving. This is the link, bit.ly/imbalance-priority-list. Now, you're looking at that, you're right, it's just a grid. It's a very special grid. When you know how to use it, you will see the power of this. So down the left-hand side, we have numbers. Number 1 is appointment 1. Number 2 is appointment 2. Number 3 is appointment 3. You're simply going to put the date of the appointment in this first column. Then if you have iridology, you're going to write down what iridology markers you are using to create the rest of this program. So you will have learned by this time how to use the iridology markers in conjunction with your client's symptoms, right? If you don't have iridology, just write down the symptom that you're working on. What dietary work do you want your client to work on? What supplements are you recommending if you recommend vitamins or herbs? And what lifestyle modifications are you recommending to your clients? Now, here's the thing. This is on an 8.5 by 11 inch piece of paper. There is not a lot of space in here. You are not allowed to micro write. If I catch you doing that, I will find you, right? I want you to write in just your regular writing. If it takes more than this space, you've given your clients too much homework. You've listed their first symptom that you want to work on here. What is the one you want to work on next appointment? What will you work on with them in appointment 3, appointment 4, appointment 5? This is your therapeutic sequence. This is where you're planning your roadmap of how to take them from where they are to a place that is closer to where they want to be. And you are breaking the information you give them down into very doable steps so that they know that it's simple. But remember, I said at the end of appointment 1, you're going to say, in appointment 2, if we see the results we are expecting, we are going to work on whatever it is. You're going to draw that appointment 2 from right here. When you do appointment 2, you go through the same process, fill this in with what is the next piece of homework you want to give them for diet, for supplements, for lifestyle. At the end of appointment 2, you're saying, and when we see the results that we are expecting, we are going to work on whatever we've picked for appointment 3. This keeps you on track. It keeps you laser focused, and it helps to prevent you from overloading your clients. Can you see how powerful that can be? All right, so some Q&A. There's always questions about the program, so let's answer some of these and put them to rest. I live in a time zone that puts this class at midnight where I live. Can I still sign up and be successful? Yeah, absolutely. In fact, right now I've got a student from Slovenia, right? She can't come to the live classes because for her, they come at like midnight or something after that, like 3 a.m. She's doing it with the class recordings, and then she's good about showing up for office hours, and then she comes to, she posts questions in Facebook. right? So in Facebook, she doesn't get just me. She gets all of my grads and all of the students who are more advanced than her, helping her with answers. It's actually quite a perfect situation. She's really enjoying it. So yeah, you're not going to fall behind. You just work it through. Try to stay up with where you should be. How long will it take to go through the course? It's a 20-week course. If you decide you want to certify, I put the thumb screws on. I give you 10 months after your last class to finish your certification. Why do I do that? Because what I've found from experience is if I don't give you a deadline, most people, the vast majority of people who say they want to certify, won't get it done. So up to the end of 10 months, I will mark your exam 1, exam 2. And if you're after 10 months, then I charge you a fee for marking your exam 1, exam 2. How much time per week do I need to set aside to complete the program? A couple of hours for each class and 2 to 3 hours per week to practice assessing eyes. If you're in a situation where you don't have lots of people that you can look at their eyes because you're in lockdown, it doesn't matter, because in your student site in each lesson, there are dozens of eye slides, and you can practice on the eye slides. I'm going to be out of town next month. Will I fall too far behind? Nope, because this is on the internet. If you're in a good time zone and you can catch the class live from where you're at, fabulous. If not, catch the recording, right? The recordings are typically posted within 24 hours of class. So you can pop into class, into your site the next day, listen to class, get totally caught up. How do I know if the course is right for me? If you're a nutritionist, a herbalist, or a naturopath, and you're looking for a proven way to assess your client needs quickly and easily, if you really want to eliminate your unpaid homework time, or if you just simply want to learn the most scientifically validated, up-to-date style of iridology to apply it in your practice, then this is the course for you. When will I know enough to start using what I've learned? I want you starting to use it by the end of lesson 2. By the end of lesson 2, you've learned some critical foundational pieces. The more you practice, the better you'll be. And so start at the end of lesson 2. If you're seeing clients, let them know you've just started an iridology course. You know a little bit. Could I please look at your eyes? And they'll usually be very excited. Sure, look at my eyes. Tell me what you see. At the end of lesson 2, you'll know a little bit. And what you know will actually begin to guide you in your recommendations just that early on. What else do I need to buy for this course? Not much. You need a good quality pen light and a lighted magnifier. Now I like this one because it has a few different interchangeable powers of lenses. And so this has a light. Why do you need another light? We cover that in class, why you need 2 different types of light. So that's about $50 Canadian worth of equipment. This pen light I've had for 40 years. Just saying. I have changed the light bulb and the batteries, but they last a long time. And that's where you start. Someone always asks, do I need to buy an expensive camera? If I catch you buying an expensive iridology camera or even a cheap iriscope before you finish the course, I know where you live. We'll have a conversation. I really don't like my students spending that kind of money while they're still in the course, because you don't know if you'll love this. You don't know how well you want to use it yet. Don't spend the money until you know that you can use this, that you specifically can use this to make money in your business. Does that make sense? What if I don't like it? Can I get a refund? No, sorry, we don't do refunds. Why? Because this is a professional level course. I invest myself heavily in your learning. And because of that, I don't give refunds. I'm willing to mentor you for the long term. That's got to be worth the tuition. So there you go. iridology.education/enroll1 if you're ready to get in and get started with the home study version. And if you're leaning towards it, but you're still kind of on the fence, then book a call using the calendly.com link. Are there any other questions? Oops, and this slide has cut off that very edge of things, the call. Okay, any other questions? Are we good? Are we golden? If you've got a question, raise your hand so I know to wait for you. If I've answered everything you need answered at this moment, that's brilliant. Linda says that was great. Thank you, Linda. I sure hope that I see all of you in class. That would be fabulous. I would love that. Thank you so much for spending the last, 90 plus minutes with me. I'll be very excited to see you in the class. I hope you found this helpful. I hope it gave you some ideas for even getting control of your business now while you are waiting to start the course. And again, if there's any questions you've got, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll see you soon. Bye for now. Have a good evening.